Global Broadcasting Networks presents Military Mom Talk Radio. We know behind every strong soldier, sailor, airman, and Marine is the family supporting them. With over 200 episodes in 17 countries, over 5 seasons, with 3 million monthly listeners, we are radio strong. We're here to share resources and experts on topics important to you, the military family. Join us. We've got another great episode starting right now. Here are your hosts, Sandra, Beck, and Robin Boyd. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever the world has you comfortable and listening in. We're delighted that you're here. This is Robin Boyd with you today. Sandra's got the day off, so we are very excited to share this hour with our guest, Susan Miller. Susan has many experiences with relocation, and it's developed her desire to help women facing similar challenges. She's founded the ministry Just Moved to meet the needs of women in their adjustment and transition, and we are so fortunate to have her here. She's the author of After the Boxes Are Unpacked, Moving On After Moving In. And if any of you have gone through a move, especially one that was not quite in your cards, the one that you didn't think you were going to have to do, but all of a sudden are faced with, well, Susan Miller is the one to help you get through it. Susan, thanks for being here.
My pleasure, Robin. I'm so excited. In fact, I bet I know some of your listeners. I bet I've met them on some military installation at some point in time in our gathering together, women who have PCS'd and moved a lot.
And isn't that wonderful that your network at this point in time must have people who keep in touch and who then become the sages for the younger ones who come along?
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, like everything, it becomes a small world, and women that move around a lot, you know, you get to see them in different places, you get to love on them at different times of their PCS, and it's just a real privilege. It really is.
Tell us about your childhood, Susan. Were you moving much, or did you have a childhood pretty much in the same neighborhood?
Well, I have a military background. My dad was career for 25 years. He served in the Air Force. And then, of course, I married a man in the military. My brother was in the military. So, hey, I have a huge legacy of being not only a military daughter, but a military wife.
Now, we probably have so much in the middle to talk about, but now that you're in Scottsdale, Arizona, how long have you lived there? Well,
I've been here, it's been over 25 years. This is pretty much home to me.
That's the longest time you've ever been anywhere.
Oh, it is. It is because I moved 14 times when my husband got out of the military because he went in the hotel business, and we moved every 2 to 3 years. So we were on the move. I mean, when I was in the military, we were on the move, and when, of course, after he went into business, we were in the military. So I have, or on the move, shall I say. So I have such a great foundation for understanding what a woman goes through during that process of being uprooted and a changed life of moving.
In all of your moves, when did it occur to you, or maybe it wasn't during your moves, but maybe later, that all these experiences might be a foundation for a book?
Well, on the 13th move. When we moved from Atlanta, Georgia to Phoenix, Arizona, it was at that point that I was pretty much at the end of my rope. I was just in the pit, so to say. I had packed my emotional state for so long, so well, that it kind of I came unglued when we moved. And I know a lot of women who listen feel that way. They come unglued after a while. They just think, I can't take this anymore. And I just felt like the transition was just the straw that broke the camel's back. And it was at that point when we moved to Phoenix that I said, there has to be some other women feeling just like I do. I would love to be able to encourage them and to help them know they're not alone.
It's true, and I think that is one of the things, especially military spouses feel, is that they are alone in that we're not always on a base. Sometimes we're out in an area that doesn't have a lot of military other military families. So not only are we in a brand new area that we don't know anybody, but then we're also having to not find anybody to commiserate with that understands the military lifestyle. So that's sort of a double whammy.
Well, it is. And not only does a military spouse have to face those issues where, hey, I'm living off post or, off base and nobody gets me, but she also has to go through the normal being uprooted, putting down new roots, and so it is a double whammy, and it is very difficult. And my organization is faith-based, and so I always say to a young military spouse, go on post, find a PWOC group that you can start one of our studies or get involved in one of our studies and at a chapel near you. So we're non-denominational, and it really does help a woman through the process of putting down some roots to go through our study on post.
Now, in your book, and that's, again, is after the boxes are unpacked, because isn't it true, you can pack a box, but you can't unpack, or you can unpack the box, but you can't always unpack those emotions. You say, let go, start over, move forward. And when you clarify that last directive, you say, choose to move forward. And why do you say choose? Because usually a PCS isn't our choice.
Well, because when I talk about letting go and starting over and moving forward, this is something a woman has to choose to do inside. She has to make that choice emotionally and mentally. You may not have a say in a corporate move. You may not have a say in your military move. You don't have a choice as far as externally and being told that you're gonna be uprooted. But it's what you make of it. It's your choice inside. I am going to choose to make the best of this, and I'm going to choose to let go, and I'm going to choose to move forward. And so that's something that is determined by your choice, whether you wanted to move or not.
Were you a very strong-minded person when you were first married and starting to experience these changes?
I didn't have a clue, Robin. I didn't have a clue, and I just kind of, all the moving took such a toll on my marriage. It had a direct effect on my parenting. I lost my self-confidence. All those things that a woman goes through when she's constantly moving, constantly being uprooted. And I didn't have a clue that, I needed to really learn to cherish the things that I had left behind and cling to my faith and cling to God and cling to the things that don't change, because I was really pretty lost in those early years in not knowing what to do. And I think that probably is very typical of most of most women. When they move a lot, they kind of get lost in the shuffle.
Sure.
And until you're rooted and grounded, our faith-based ministry teaches that, to be rooted and grounded in God. Then, you know, He is unchangeable when we live in a changing world. So there are principles that a woman can really cling to in my book, and that will make a difference in her move.
We've got a couple of minutes before our first break, Susan, and I want to ask you, after the first couple of moves, were there boxes that you just didn't bother to unpack?
Oh, yes. Don't we just all leave a few boxes either in that guest bedroom or that garage that we don't unpack, for sure.
I think even I wasn't even moving, and I still had boxes down in our downstairs area that I just didn't bother to unpack. They were dishes that, I know where they are. They're in that box.
You're right. You are so right.
Yeah. I want to mention your website on our way out to commercial here. Your website is Just Moved, and there's a hyphen in between, so it's just-moved.org. And I also want to direct people to susanmiller.org as well, because they get a chance to learn a little bit more about you, about your ministry, and all about the wonderful resources that you have for anybody who's going through a move, whether it be a corporate move or a military move. And so often people do think that, if you're in the military, you're going to expect that move, but not necessarily. When we first sign in and say I do with that man who is serving, we don't quite know what's ahead. And getting that strength, that inner strength, getting that mindset is very difficult for some people. Some people are adventurous, but some people are needing that hand. And Susan, you are right there to give everybody that guidance so that they can take this challenge on and move forward. We're going to be with Susan Miller right after the break, so stay tuned. We've got lots more ahead. Stay with us on Military Mom Talk Radio.
Have you heard? The pages of American Patchwork and Quilting magazine come to life on our new weekly online radio show, American Patchwork and Quilting. Join Pat Sloan, our blogging and quilt designer host, as she talks about the latest trends, ideas, and inspirations. Her guests include quilt pattern designers, authors, quilt shop owners, and our editors, all quilters, just like you. Call in with your questions. Get quilting tips from industry experts. Learn about free patterns. Hear behind-the-scenes stories from our magazines, American Patchwork and Quilting, Quilt Sampler, and Quilts and More. Get the scoop on free stuff and find out more about the best independent quilt shops in North America. To listen to a live show, tune in Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Just log on to allpeoplequilt.com/radio. To hear past shows, go to iTunes and search for American Patchwork and Quilting Radio. We hope you'll join us because we know that quilting changes everything.
LinkedIn. It's a great tool and a great way to do business in today's social media-driven world. And Carol McManus is the LinkedIn Lady with the LinkedIn Lady Show. Tuesday and Wednesday afternoons at 4 p.m. Eastern on allbusinessradionetwork.com. The LinkedIn Lady Show is designed to inform, inspire, and educate businesses. Every social media site has a specific demographic, personality, and purpose. And the LinkedIn Lady will interview a variety of guests, such as business owners who can showcase their business and talk about how they use social media, such as Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Google+, Pinterest, and of course, LinkedIn. For more on Carol and the show, check out her website, LinkedInLady.com. As trends change and new applications become available, the LinkedIn Lady Show will bring that information to you in an easy-to-use, fun, and engaging way. Every Tuesday and Wednesday afternoons at 4 p.m. Eastern, it's the LinkedIn Lady Show with Carol McManus on allbusinessradionetwork.com.
We're back with more great conversation on Military Mom Talk Radio. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We're here today on Military Mom Talk Radio with Susan Miller. She is the author of After the Boxes Are Unpacked, Moving On After Moving In. And Susan, we were saying in the first segment how sometimes these things are planned, but sometimes they're not, and especially in the military, we really don't always know what tomorrow will bring. And I think the military has so many things that we have to deal with emotionally. We have the concern of where our spouse is. We have the concern about having to maintain our household alone many times when they're deployed, keeping up with all of what the kids are doing. It's got to have a little bit of a strain on women, and we sort of internalize all that. Can we talk a little bit about why a PCS move is so difficult for women?
Well, because women are emotional beings, and because we need that relational connection, and we lose that when you move a lot. A move is something that a woman feels and a man does. So a woman is emotionally tied to a move, whereas a man moves and he's got his job and he's checking his list, and he's expected, where a woman has to start all over again. Yeah. And, her whole life is in brown boxes, and she's moved from everything familiar to the unfamiliar.
And I think it's kind of funny, the correlation that I always draw on. I've been a Girl Scout all my life. I work in our local Girl Scout council. And when you take a group camping, and I've seen it because I have a son, and I've seen it because I have a daughter. And when you're with the little boys, when they go camping, they have one tent that they chuck all their gear in. Boom, it gets chucked in there, and they are off. Little girls, inevitably, they have to undo their bedrolls. They have to set up their pillow. They have to put their little lovey. They do this little housekeeping thing. And every time I've gone camping with kids, it seems to be the same scenario. So then when you have adults now and having to move real homes and real households, it's true. We do have that. And I hate to say it, but we have that sort of nesting capacity that we just need to sort of have our environment right before we can make our world right. And that's such a challenge. We were talking before that we need to give ourselves permission to have some of these emotional rides.
Well, absolutely. And what I just love and admire so about military spouses is that they pull themselves up by their bootstraps, and they throw their shoulders back and lift their head high, and they press on. I mean, they know that a PCS is part of their life and a part of their lifestyle. And although it can be emotionally hard, which it is, when you leave friends behind and you leave, that sense of community behind, it is difficult. But I'm telling you, I have seen more military spouses just crawl out of those trenches and move on to the next scenario. And they fight for their marriages, which many are strained because of continual separations. And I've seen them use humor to diffuse hardships. And I could just list the things that a military spouse is so resilient and such a fighter in these hard emotional circumstances. But it doesn't take away the fact that it is an emotional journey that many of the women are on, and they do have to put down roots again. And it is hard when your husband's on a long TDY or he's deployed, and you're the chief cook, bottle washer, washing machine fixer, car, taking care of everything from managing the money to all the household scenarios plus the kids. I mean, it's not easy. And so I have such respect for what a military spouse goes through. I lived it, and I watched it, and I observed it.
Let's talk a little bit about those relationships, because any move, military or not, it is going to be experienced, interpreted, and probably subliminally kept some resentment in that relationship. And how do we get beyond some of those things that we don't clear the air about, and we're kind of holding on to?
Well, it is hard. There's no way to make resentment or those feelings and emotions you have. There's no simple thing that I can say, and do this and it'll go away. However, there are some important things to remember, and one is that if at all possible, to keep the communication lines open. So many times women shut down. It's so easy to shut down. And yet, marriage is hard work, and a lot of times we have to work at it. We have to continue trying to build that communication, that openness where, your husband can enter into your world by understanding what you're going through, to communicate that. It's hard a lot of times. You have to love him unconditionally, and that's not always easy. And sometimes it's shown in your actions and in the things that you say and do, and just that understanding that it's not what you say, but how you say it. I call it the follow the what, how, and when rule. A lot of times we say words that are hurtful, and we choose the worst possible time to communicate. And so, in that communication, which is key, to just follow that what, how, and when rule. It's not what you say, but when you say it and how you say it. And just to understand your man. All of our husbands are so different, and we need to be their cheerleader and encourage them and, be affectionate. A lot of times we withdraw our affections when we're mad at our husbands. And, we just need to understand that a lot of times they need encouraging, and they need that hug as much as we do. Oh, so sure. I've had women say to me, okay, now, hey, this is all about, you're telling me all about how to help my husband. What about me? And I will say to them, hey, this session is all about you, because you're the only one that you can change. You can't change your husband. Only God can. So you need to work on the woman in the mirror and try to be the best you can be and do what you can do to enhance and encourage your marriage.
I think so many times, too, when you've moved, it's because of your spouse's work, be it military or corporate, and that sometimes leaves you without purpose, in that they've got the job to go to, they're already set and ready to go, they're focusing on the things that they are having to do, and we sort of have to be starting over again. If we had a job, we had to leave that job and move forward. Are you finding a lot of women resorting to maybe internet type work, or how are you seeing women finding their purpose?
I see a lot of women doing having home-based businesses, which gives them a flexible routine and schedule with their children or with their own life. I see a lot of home-based businesses, a lot of women going to work part-time, realizing that they still have to manage a home and manage being a parent if their husband, is either deployed or on a TDY that You know, a lot of women have chosen to stay at home during this season of their life also. So, you know, it's just not easy, and there isn't a simple answer to the dilemmas and the crisis that marriages face. But I would sure recommend to keep short accounts and schedule time for date nights, and, you know, look for the stress cracks in your marriage, and you know, ask yourself the hard questions. What can I do about this? How can I best love my husband during a difficult time?
And it is always a challenge, and everybody's got to find what is the best process for them. Sometimes things work well. I know we often, when we were separated for any time, would write notes to each other, and I would leave a note in his bag, or I would be. Now, of course, we can text message each other, but back then you didn't have that opportunity. So it's funny how you as the person at home sort of need to find that purpose. We now kind of have the different roles in that my husband is now retired, and it was difficult for him to find purpose. I was still working. He is retired, and it's almost a role reversal because he now needs to find that what makes him get up every day, kind of a thing. Susan, we've got another break coming up, and on the other side of this break, I'd like to move into talking about the kids. We talked a little bit about, we alluded to having to maintain the kids, but boy, that's got to be very emotional for children. It's bad, and it's hard for us to face as an adult, but it's very confusing, especially for the littlest ones. So on the other side, we want to talk about kids and moving with kids. We're here today with Susan Miller. She's the author of After the Boxes Are Unpacked, Moving On After Moving In. And I want to repeat her website. It is just-moved.org. And we'll be back with Susan after the break. We've got lots more ahead. Stay with us on Military Mom Talk Radio.
Have you heard? The pages of American Patchwork and Quilting magazine come to life on our new weekly online radio show, American Patchwork and Quilting. Join Pat Sloan, our blogging and quilt designer host, as she talks about the latest trends, ideas, and inspirations. Her guests include quilt pattern designers, authors, quilt shop owners, and our editors, all quilters, just like you. Call in with your questions. Get quilting tips from industry experts. Learn about free patterns. Hear behind-the-scenes stories from our magazines, American Patchwork and Quilting, Quilt Sampler, and Quilts and More. Get the scoop on free stuff and find out more about the best independent quilt shops in North America. To listen to a live show, tune in Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Just log on to allpeoplequilt.com/radio. To hear past shows, go to iTunes and search for American Patchwork and Quilting Radio. We hope you'll join us because we know that quilting changes everything.
Close your eyes and imagine living your life without limits. Where would you go? Who would you meet? What would you do? During an Uncover Your Hidden Genius session, you will discover what's keeping you from living your life with purpose, passion, and fulfillment of your potential. You'll get a clear vision of the steps you need to take to uncover your hidden genius so that you can live a life without limits. Sessions can be done over the phone, Skype, or in person. Find out more at www.joycebufordempowers.com or by calling 903-287-0747.
We're back with more great conversation on Military Mom Talk Radio. Hello, Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Military Mom Talk Radio. This is Robin Boyd with you today. Sandra has the day off, and we are chatting with Susan Miller. I'm talking about Sandra Beck, and I'm talking about Susan Miller. Susan Miller is our guest today. If you've missed any of this show or any of our other shows, do find us on iTunes. We are at militarymomtalkradio.com. We're also here on the TogiNet station, toginet.com. And you can find all of our shows on iTunes. If you're heading out to the park or heading out and planning a summer vacation, you'll want to download a few of those podcasts and have some great listening while you are anywhere you choose to be. We are always with you. Today with us is Susan Miller. After the boxes are unpacked, moving on after moving in. And Susan did correct me saying that if you don't remember the hyphen, just remember justmoved.org. That is going to bring you there as well. Susan, we're talking a little bit about relationships, and I want to ask how long you and your husband Bill were married.
We were married 45 years. I got married when I was 10. I'm just kidding.
God bless. Oh, my word.
We were married 45 years, and through that, of course, I experienced the military life as well as the corporate life, as well as the retired life. And I lost Bill to cancer 6 years ago, and learned through that the very principles that I use in my book of letting go and starting over and moving forward applied to me and my loss. I had to let go. I had to start over and move forward. And so those principles are applicable to women going through any loss or any change in life. And, of course, talking about purpose that we were in the segment before, this organization, this ministry that I have brings such purpose, and I have such a passion for it. And I always say to women going through loss or change, find a passion, find that purpose, and because that's what enables you and helps you to continue putting one foot in front of the other.
And I think it's very difficult to have the desire to find that purpose sometimes when we're hit with a 2x4. Sometimes that's exactly what it feels like. Something happens, it's a crisis happens in our life, and that desire to pick ourselves up may not always be there. And how do you find that in inner strength, Susan? Some people just may not have that.
Well, and it doesn't mean that the next day I was off and running by any means. Yeah. My only goal was to breathe every day. I was numb. I was exhausted from grief and from caregiving, and I didn't know how to begin life again. And, I truly stand on my faith that each day as God breathed life into me, I then learned how to cope and adjust to my new normal. And it was a process. It didn't happen overnight. I mean, the pieces of anyone's life who has gone through loss or change, they'll never fit together in the same way. Your life is forever altered. But in time, and I say in time because that's different for everyone, but in time, I realized that I was the only one that was going to take care of myself, and that I had to literally pull myself up out of the pit of despair, and with God's help I did that. And of course I was already in full-time ministry, so I just went back to what I know and what I love and what I had a passion for doing.
There again, that permission comes into play. We need to give ourselves permission to do what we need to do inside so that we can move forward outside. That's always so difficult for women, isn't it?
It is. And it doesn't always come, not only does it not come easy, it doesn't always come at the same time. There's some women that never begin to put the pieces of life back together. And I would always think, what would Bill want me to do? He would want me to get up out of bed and get dressed and, find that purpose. And sometimes it may be volunteering for a woman. Sometimes it may be a soft step approach of just inviting a friend over for lunch, or, it can look different for everyone, but it is that choice that we make, whether we're going to continue trying to move forward, trying to begin again.
Sure. We're in that driver's seat, aren't we? And it's up to us to put it in drive.
As hard as it is sometimes, yes.
Yeah. Moving can be so hard on children, and military kids, we often say they're so resilient, but it doesn't mean that they don't experience the emotional struggles and have that baggage as well. Let's talk about some of the issues that children face.
Well, Robin, I always like to remind moms that children do not have the same coping skills that we do. And so we need to be so sensitive and aware with age appropriate, in other words, depending on their age, to be sensitive and aware that they're having a hard time too, that this has been a huge change in their life, and that they've been uprooted from friends and from community and, school and whatever they were involved in, and they don't have the same coping skills that we do in adjusting, and we have to have a lot of patience, a lot of sensitivity. It's real important. Moving is a big deal for kids. Sure. And, of course, their personality and age and temperament will, of course, play a large role in how they adjust. But, it is very hard. They will learn to cope with change as they see how we as parents handle situations, because, they're reading the pages of our life. And so I always say, get in the trenches with them. Let them know you understand their feelings and their concerns, and, look into their eyes. Take time from unpacking those boxes and sit down and say, okay, I just want you to know Mom's struggling too, and I haven't made a friend either, but we're going to hold hands and stick together, and we're going to make it through this. That's very comforting to a child.
And I think that honesty is so important. We sometimes forget that even the smallest children can be spoken to with some very grounded reasoning. And like you say, Mom doesn't have a friend yet, but we're going to do this together. We've got each other, and we're going to find the nearest ice cream place and go have ice cream or something.
Exactly. And just to be available, to talk and to listen. And, a lot of times we forget that, they may lash out in anger, but this is a normal reaction to loss, and they have feelings too.
Oh, sure.
So it is hard.
Yeah. Do you have some tips as far as helping children making new friends, finding new friends?
I do. I think it's real important for them to, and these are so, they're not rocket science. They're pretty understandably easy, but just to be friendly. Don't wait for other kids to approach you. To have a friend, you've got to be a friend. And, don't forget to smile. And you want to teach your children that, it is the being friendly and the smiling that people will want to come up to you and visit with you. And a lot of times just being patient. I mean, it's no fun to be an outsider, but, sometimes you just have to be patient and know that it's going to take a little while before you make that real close friend, but you can sure be friendly and smile in the meantime. And then it's important for them to get involved quickly, to get involved in if they played soccer or if they were, in gymnastics or whatever they were in that they loved. Get them involved quickly. That's a real important way to make friends and to meet other people, and not to compare. I know with my own children, they would say, oh my gosh, I just love my school. It had a better sports program than the one I'm going in now. Well, don't compare. Nobody wants to hear how their school is second best. So, it's important to be, aware of those kind of things and to expect differences, because there are going to be different cultures and different environment, different food. Expect those differences. And to take a good look, be observant. Take a good look at people and places around you, because you can learn a lot by doing that. And then, of course, I always like to say, remember your manners. Remember that nobody wants to be around someone who's rude or obnoxious, but to be kind and thoughtful. So those are just some, it's not rocket science, it's just some basic practical tips.
Sure. It's always tough to be the new kid at school. It's always difficult to have that difference in curriculum, for example. And I think so many times we've had conversations with other people when they know that there's a move ahead, to be able to get in touch with the school that they're going to be moving into, to at least get an idea of where the curriculum is, to get those records transferred. So if maybe the new school is going to be on a different platform than the old school was, and someone might be all set, and maybe there's going to be some remedial assistance needed just to get a child up to the curriculum level of the new school. So those are always such challenges.
Yeah.
It never is easy, like you're saying, but there again, keeping that communication open. We've got another break coming, Susan, and on the other side, let's talk about some tips. Let's talk about some how-tos. And I know in the back of your book you do have sort of a little directory or a little guidance in the back. So let's talk about that on the other side of the break with Susan Miller here on Military Mom Talk Radio. We've got lots more ahead. Stay with us on Military Mom Talk Radio.
Do you ever wonder if you're the only woman who runs errands in her yoga pants so it will look like she went to the gym? Or how about the only mom who feeds her kids raw cookie dough? Or are you the only one who cooks her family cold cereal for dinner? Do you need more laughter and less loudness? More self-love and less self-loathing? More joy and less judgment? You're not alone. Come to the living room, a place where we get comfy, candid, and confident together. Come seeking sanctuary and leave feeling renewed. We're saving a seat for you. Give yourself some living room today.
Information about book publishing is power. The power to change your authoring life, and the power to change the lives of your readers. So join us for Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific. You'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now. As the book shepherd, Dr. Judith Briles is in. And each week, she will include publishing professionals that will reveal tips and secrets to the author's journey. If there is a book in you want to listen, learn, and yes, call in with your questions each week. For more on Judith and what she can do for you, check out her website, thebookshepherd.com. It's your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Brought to you by Author You and the Book Shepherd, with your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific.
We're back with more great conversation on Military Mom Talk Radio. Okay, great. Thanks for joining us today. This is Robin Boyd with you. Today, Sandra's got the day off, but I am here for this hour with Susan Miller. She is our guest today, the author of After the Boxes Are Unpacked, and she also is the president and founder of Just Moved. Her ministry is in Scottsdale, Arizona, but I would assume that you don't stay in Scottsdale all the time. I have a feeling you're on the move quite a bit.
Yes, I am, Robin. I travel and speak all over the world, actually. I am blessed indeed to be invited by the military to speak at conferences and retreats, and was just in Europe a year ago, in fact, this very week, and travel all over the United States too for churches and in fact any organization that has to deal with their people being uprooted. And in churches it's also huge because they pocket a lot of new people that move in.
Well, we would love anybody interested in having you visit them. They should go to justmove.org, I assume? Is that the correct way?
They can reach me by going to justmove.org.
You also have a wonderful blog there that I'd love people to tap into because you are so expressive in your writing, and your blog is certainly one way to reach that. I also direct people to pick up your book After the Boxes Are Unpacked. You are through, what is your publisher?
Tyndale is the publisher. It's a Focus on the Family book, and Tyndale is the publisher. And yes, you can, all kinds of ways to get in touch with me. And also, I wrote the study guides and have the video teaching series to accompany my book, and it is taught in churches and neighborhoods and military, corporate. It's taught all over the world in settings where women have been uprooted.
Well, talking about how many ways we can get in touch with you, that sort of leads into what I did want to bring up in this segment, is how things have changed so much to families today who are facing moves versus when you were doing all of your moves. And we're talking 20 some odd plus years ago that you were facing all of these moves. Technology, social media, none of that was there for you then.
Well, that's so true, Robin. In fact, social networking has truly bridged the miles with relationships and with connecting. I mean, you can go on the internet and find out where you're moving and all the intricate details of a community or an area, and it can certainly connect you to the people that you know and have a relationship with, but it can also disconnect you from personal contact. And I think we have to be careful about that. Disconnect as well as it does connect. Technology, oh my gosh, that has opened up the door for people to work from home anywhere in the world. And you know that and hear of that all the time. It's just amazing the differences in things like cost of living and interest rates and all of that. You know, it makes a huge difference in our ability to move and be more in a mobile society. It's just everything. It is a small world now, as we say. It truly
is.
It is a small world.
Even conveniences. Sandra and I often talk about how we, let alone military families, use Amazon, for example. If you have a certain product that you really like and you know your family, whether it's a certain laundry detergent or it's a go green kind of product that you might not be able to find in your new neighborhood, at least having the ability to order it in the same means that you've always ordered it and just change the shipping address in your Amazon account. Those conveniences are certainly wonderful for us.
Yes, they are. It's made shopping a whole lot easier, and especially if you live in a rural community or a place where you don't have access to, to a lot of shopping.
Sure. Susan, we've unpacked the coffee pot. We found the socks and underwear. Now, what do we do? What are some tips, some practical step-by-steps that we can do to adjust to a new place?
Well, first of all, join up and join in. I always say, my goodness, if it's aerobics, if it's Zumba, whatever you love to do, you've got to make every effort to get outside that front door. It's so easy to pull in and just hibernate, but you have got to get up and get out and join up and join in and volunteer. Find a church, find something in the community that you would love to be involved in, because that's so important. And to be yourself. So many times when we moved, I would try to fit in and, never did just be comfortable with myself move after move. And so I think being yourself is huge, because people will love who that you are. You don't have to try to be someone else. And it's just real important to get out there and do what you enjoy doing and get involved where there are other people. Take a walk down your street, and if you are a young mom and, you see a van or toys in the yard, then there are other moms with kids on the same street. So, you really need to be observant and get out and explore. There's got to be something about your community that you want to know more about, and maybe you could just go online and find out if there's museums or where the library is or whatever you might want to explore and learn about your community, and take your children with you or get them involved in, okay, where do you want to explore this weekend? So, those are just some fun things you can do. Be good to yourself. Buy yourself fresh flowers at the grocery store as a reminder that you're putting down roots. So those are just a couple of things that you can do.
That's wonderful, because I think so many times we are so worried about finding ourselves in a new community, and it may just be, like you say, a matter of saying, oh, there's some children over in that house. There's a bike in the yard. There's a basketball hoop over there. There must be some kids in that yard. And I think kids do you get integrated with them in their school, but it might be summertime that you move and you're not quite back in school yet, so it can be very difficult. Of course, I always want to say join a local scouting troop, because sometimes scouting will bring you together, whether it's Boy Scout, Girl Scouts, 4-H, Girls Inc., there's so many different groups for children, and I think some of those civic groups are a great way of doing it as well.
Those are great. I mean, absolutely. And that, again, is joining up and joining in, finding your interest. And the real funny part, I will always say, hey, girls, hit the garage sales, on Friday and Saturday, because you can learn your way around your new town. You can have fun. You can meet people. There's just a lot of practical things that I offer in my book after each chapter that help you unpack your survival box and help you survive. But those are just some fun things. Again, sign up, be a volunteer, check out your what are your hobbies? Maybe, in other words, there's some art classes or hiking groups or a book club that you can get involved in. I know one young woman had her own welcome to the neighborhood party. She said, I'm new and I don't know anybody. So she said, I just went around to all the neighborhood and said, hey, I'm having a coffee Saturday morning. The garage door will be up. I'll have donuts and coffee. Stop by. So real casual kind of thing.
Yeah. You're finding the local church, finding the local library, and finding where the schools are. I guess those are the three things that really help you feel at home and become a part of your new community. Susan, thank you so much. This has been such a delightful hour, and it went way too quickly.
It did.
Absolutely.
I would have loved to have talked the rest of the afternoon, Robin.
Well, we will have part 2 very soon. How is that?
Well, that sounds great. And I sure hope your listeners are encouraged. I just encourage them not to give up and not to lose hope. And that this too shall pass. It doesn't come to stay. It comes to pass. So you will make it, my moving friends.
Yes, and just hearing that, I very quickly I'll say I had a bout with cancer about 15 years ago, and the one thing that I did was put my sights on a woman who had been through, survived, and was then back to the things that she wanted to do. She was my mentor, and Susan, you are the mentor of every person who is going through, whether it be a life crisis and having to move forward, or a move that is just taking us some time to get through. Susan Miller, again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Robin.
The book is After the Boxes Are Unpacked, Moving On After Moving In. You will find it at her website, justmoved.org. We also want to invite you to go to susanmiller.org, whether it be her blog, her books, or some of the packets that she has ready and waiting for you to inquire about. There's so many resources from Susan Miller. So we're delighted that you're here today. Again, if you want more information on this or any of our shows, visit us at militarymomtalkradio.com. You can always find us on iTunes, and we're always right here on the Toginet station, ready and waiting with more great information for you. So thanks for joining us today, and we were delighted to have you with us. Have a great week, everyone. We'll see you next week on Military Mom Talk Radio. Thanks for spending time with us today on Military Mom Talk Radio. We've got more than 200 episodes available to you anytime on iTunes or at our website, militarymomtalkradio.com. Find us on Facebook or Twitter. We look forward to another great conversation